Hey everyone. Tonight we step into the elegant, disciplined, and brutally unforgiving world of feudal Japan, a realm of samurai honor, strict codes, and lethally sharp consequences. It's the land of cherry blossoms and poetry, and a daily grind that would break most of us by noon. So before you settle in, if you're enjoying this journey, let me know with a like and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's always fascinating to see our global audience. Now, dim the lights, maybe switch on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's begin. In feudal Japan, you don't wake up and choose your path. You wake up and it's already been chosen for you, by birth, by blood, and by ancestors dead for 6 generations. Your role isn't a suggestion, it's a life sentence. Born a samurai? Lucky you. You're now responsible for the blade, the bow, and 10,000 ways to sit properly before your lord. Born a peasant? Congratulations. You'll spend the next 40 years ankle deep in mud, and your children will too, forever. There were no resumes, no startups. You were a samurai, peasant, artisan, or merchant. Placed once, you stayed. Trying to jump ranks wasn't just frowned upon, it was punishable. You didn't climb the ladder in feudal Japan, you bowed to it. And we haven't even mentioned the Eita, the untouchables, the butchers, executioners, leatherworkers. Society needed them, but pretended they didn't. They were ghosts with jobs. Even within classes, it was relentless. A merchant? You had coin, but were near the bottom, because making money without manual labor was considered shady, too efficient to be respected. Peasants were taxed so hard on rice that coughing up too much meant starvation. Hiding some meant treason. Heads rolled often. Samurai lived in constant fear of dishonoring their lord, their ancestors, or their sword by a mistimed sneeze. And women? Whatever your class, your freedom ended where your father's opinion began. You married who you were told, obeyed whom you must, and were grateful if you were allowed to learn poetry. You were born, assigned a costume and a script, and shoved onto society's stage. Elegant, poetic, and crushingly inescapable, all before breakfast. You might think feudal life was gritty, but Japan took cleanliness painfully seriously, a near religion. You'd begin your day washing at a stone basin with ice-cold water. No heat, no negotiation. You'd shiver as if your ancestors were punishing you for having pores. Soap, if you were rich, was made from ash or rice bran and smelled like a monk's test of character. Communal bathhouses, heated by firewood, were centers of hygiene and social nakedness. You bathed next to neighbors, bosses, and in-laws in silent, awkward sanctity. Dirtying the water was social suicide. For samurai, the pressure multiplied. Your lord might inspect you head to toe. Dirty fingernails? Dishonor. A wrinkled robe? Disrespect. Too much body odor during a bow? You might not get back up. Women were expected to smell of cherry blossoms and discipline. Bathing was ritualized. Skincare was military precision. Hair took hours, all so you could work a rice mortar and still look dignified. Feudal Japan was clean, but the cost was freezing water, endless grooming, and the soul-shrinking awareness that someone was always judging your foot hygiene. Let's say you were born a samurai. It sounds cool. Fancy swords, silk robes, poetic duels under blossoms. Now read the fine print. Your life was governed by Bushido, the warrior's code, so strict even your ancestors were nervous. You lived for your daimyo, your lord. His word was law, his moods, weather patterns. Your job was to serve with a loyalty that preferred horrific death over mild disappointment. Disobedience? Dishonor. Failure? Dishonor. A sideways glance during a tea ceremony? Dishonor. And dishonor wasn't something you walked off. You atoned for it, usually with your own intestines. That's seppuku, ritual suicide. It wasn't rare, it was a respected exit for the disgraced. Mess up badly, and your lord might hand you a short blade and a quiet room. On top of that, you trained constantly. Swordsmanship, archery, horseback, strategy, calligraphy, poetry, all while maintaining perfect posture and the expression of a man who'd never known joy, only deep obligation. Laughing too loud was unrefined. Showing fear was weakness. Your clothes were precise, your sword spotless, your conduct so honorable it made others uncomfortable. Raising your sword without cause, insulting a superior, losing a duel, you didn't just lose, you lost everything. Being a samurai wasn't about glory. It was about discipline, silence, and surviving each day without blinking wrong. You were one eyebrow twitch from existential catastrophe. Not a samurai? No sword, no poetry, no dramatic disembowelment. The good news. The bad news? You're a peasant. Your existence was dirt, sweat, back pain, and government-mandated rice delivery. You woke with the sun because the land tax didn't pay itself. Your thatched hut had no doors, maybe a goat walking across your bed mat. Breakfast was a bowl of rice porridge and last week's pickled something, or pretending you aren't hungry with river water. Then the rice fields, mud pits designed to break your soul over 12 hours. You planted, weeded, hoped bandits didn't raid, then limped home to find an ox missing and the village headman wanting a word about your grain shortfall. Taxes were relentless. You paid in rice, your family ate what was left, which wasn't much. Complain? That's adorable. You couldn't. Talking back got you whipped, exiled, or promoted to corpse. You were legally bound to your village, a rice-based prisoner with seasonal ankle rot. Festivals offered cheap sake and a dance, trying not to think that planting season started again in 4 days. You were the economy's foundation, the reason samurai ate, and the person everyone forgot. And you never got a day off. You're hungry? Of course. You've been tilling since sunrise. Time to eat. But in feudal Japan, meals were about survival, not indulgence. Peasants ate rice. Rice for breakfast, lunch, dinner. If lucky, actual rice. If not, barley pretending to be rice. Maybe a turnip, some pickled radish. Meat? That was for the daimyo. Fish was dried, salted, sharp enough to file teeth. Soup was miso, hot salt water with floating leaves. Samurai ate better, but last, after their lord and guests. Cold rice, cold soup, watching others eat while pretending to be honored. Everything was seasonal. Not trendy, but because without refrigeration, if you didn't harvest it, it didn't exist. Winter was nature's suggestion for fasting. Food poisoning? Medical care was lie down and think of your ancestors. Steal a bowl of rice? The punishment was a public display of why you don't touch the daimyo's daikon. Tea ceremonies were less about thirst, more about posture, etiquette, and existential humility. Meals were sacred, quiet, respectful, and mostly bland, small, with one crunchy mystery item. And no, you couldn't complain. So you finished your crunchy fish soup. Someone says something absurd. Your lord's bad haiku, the elder's misquote, a neighbor's weather-predicting cow. For one reckless moment you think of correcting them. Don't. In feudal Japan, your opinion was a liability. Free speech was a fast track to disgrace, exile, or sudden decapitation. The hierarchy was rigid. Every word had weight. Speaking above your class was impudence. Criticizing a superior was insolence. A joke that didn't land was treason adjacent. In families, a son didn't interrupt his father. A wife didn't correct her husband. No one questioned the daimyo, unless they wanted to explore the afterlife via sword tip. Samurai spoke with measured calm even when furious. A sharp tongue was worse than a dull blade. Unbecoming, dangerous, and might force someone to kill you to restore their honor. Apologies were an art form. You didn't just say sorry. You bowed, groveled, possibly wrote a shame poem, sent a gift like a live bird, and hoped the recipient didn't skewer you anyway. A misplaced tone could be sarcasm, defiance, or spiritual rot. Silence was safer. Humor was a tightrope. Laughing at the wrong thing was disrespect. Laughing with someone implied you were equals, a good way to get reassigned to the far north. You were free to speak, technically. But in practice, you nodded, smiled, and prayed your opinion never escaped your mouth. Loose lips didn't just sink ships, they sank social standing, reputations, and bloodlines. In feudal Japan, fashion wasn't self-expression. It was a uniform declaring exactly how far below everyone you were. Samurai wore layers of silk, sometimes armored, always dignified. Colors were deep blues, earthy browns, occasional blood red, elegant, ominous, silently stating, "I've killed a man for less than a fashion faux pas." Their paired swords, the daisho, were a walking badge of authority. Drawing one was a last resort. Wearing them wrong was a first step to being corrected with extreme sharpness. Peasants wore cotton and humility, browns, grays, beiges. Not minimalism, but because dye cost money, and you were too busy surviving to coordinate. Your outfit said, "Yes, I work in mud." "No, I didn't choose this." Merchants had finer materials, they had money, but were still socially below samurai and peasants, so they kept it muted. Rich, but not too rich. Silk, but subdued. The goal was to be just respectful enough not to draw a bored samurai's notice. Artisans dressed neatly, modestly, durably. Drawing attention was a personality defect. Women balanced grace, obedience, and 12 layers of folded symbolism. Hairstyles were coded, kimono patterns, seasonal. Wearing a color for the wrong festival dishonored your household and could start a neighborhood whisper war. What you wore was about rank, ritual, and surviving daily judgment from heaven and your mother-in-law. You're imagining moonlit walks, whispered poetry, a dramatic kiss between a samurai and a forbidden princess? No. In feudal Japan, love was a side quest you weren't likely to complete. Marriage was about alliances, status, rice taxes, and not embarrassing your ancestors. For peasants, marriages were arranged by parents and village elders. Romantic compatibility wasn't discussed. Sturdy legs and healthy teeth were priorities. For samurai, stakes were higher. Marriages were political tools to solidify clans, secure land, or pay off a grudge. The goal wasn't happiness, it was stability, preferably not collapsing at harvest. Love letters? Only in perfect calligraphy with appropriate seasonal metaphors, passed discreetly by a maid who knew too much. Women had even less say. A samurai daughter might marry at 15, required to master calligraphy, etiquette, needlework, and the fine art of never expressing disappointment aloud. Her job, bear sons, serve tea, and never fall for the flute teacher. Actual romantic love was for poets, plays, and tragic ghost stories. Step outside your assigned relationship, adultery led to exile, disgrace, or death by sword-related disapproval. People fell in love, secretly, painfully, with the wrong person at the worst time. Love wasn't forbidden, it was dangerously inconvenient. In feudal Japan, death wasn't a distant concept. It was your neighbor, your coworker, your roommate who never paid rent but was always around. You didn't plan for retirement, you planned your exit. For samurai, death was part of the job. Lose a battle? Seppuku. Insult your honor? Seppuku. Spill sake on the daimyo's robe? Seppuku with dramatic music. It was public, ceremonial, performed with the precision of a tea ceremony but with more internal bleeding. Peasants didn't fare better. A failed harvest meant starvation. Missed tax quotas? Your head made a stern point. Drought, plague, bandit raids? Pick your demise, with medicine being warm tea and herbal optimism. Bandits were real, everywhere, and didn't care about your radishes. Roads were so dangerous people didn't travel unless necessary. Maybe we'll visit your cousin next year meant I enjoy being alive.